Hey everyone. So, I guess to start, we learned from the Gorosei that the Gum Gum fruit's true name is the mythical zone human fruit model Nika or sun god Nika, and that throughout history the fruit has in some way or another has managed to escape from has managed to elude them or escape from them because, like all zone fruits, it has a will all its own. And that last part is important because apparently, when this chapter was released, Annie's Twitter had a little bit of a blow up with the reveal, as apparently there's a sizable chunk of people within the community where that believe this proves that Luffy was destined to become Joy Boy all along. Nothing happened by chance, and this ruins his character. You pretty much know the usual shtick I'm talking about. But if anything, I think it not only validates my own theory that Shanks had his own plans for the fruit this entire time, and ultimately had to rework his schemes and his plans around Luffy, but I think this reveal also proves that between what we have seen of Luffy's awakening in this chapter and what the Gorosei is true, then really nothing has changed. If anything, I think this chapter proves that if the fruit's will is as erratic and unpredictable as the Gorosei say, then you have to think of it this way. The fruit can choose who its host is. The Gum Gum fruit could have just as easily rejected Luffy as just as much as it accepted him. But even knowing that, the fruit itself doesn't have like as if the fruit has this conscience within itself, it doesn't have any grand plan. It just wants to have fun, and that definition of fun just so happens to include fucking with the government. If anything, if the fruit has this conscience that the Gorosei says it does, then it doesn't really even have any like real goal of destroying the government or anything. It's basically it's kind of like the Joker, weirdly like the Joker in the sense where the fruit, the consciousness of the fruit is this chaotic force of nature, and that's why it's feared. But if anything, that but if anything, the thing that feels more like a rewrite for Luffy's character, if anything, is making the Gum Gum fruit a zone fruit rather than keeping it a paramecia, whatever you call it. That's the part that feels a little weird and unnecessary to me. I don't know maybe it's just me, but I mean, don't get me wrong, it does make weird sense considering I guess we never actually got confirmed that it was called the Gum Gum fruit, but at the same time it's like it does feel like why couldn't Oda just let it be a paramecia? Why did he have to make it a zone type? That's kind of the weird thing about it for me, but that's really the only gripe I have with this whole thing. Um, Now, with that said, let's talk about Gear 5 in itself, because as we see, like all awakenings, we see how Luffy's awakening can now affect the environment around him, like with Doflamingo and Katakuri. And yeah, I kind of called it just from the small display we've gotten in the end of the chapter, but the one thing above all else that Luffy's awakening has given him is a near indestructible defense. And even then, I think that might be underplaying the power a bit, because just the fact that Luffy was able to block Kaido's burst breath with just a piece of the ground and turning it into rubber shows we've only gotten a taste of what this awakening is capable of, as well as its defensive capabilities. And honestly, just from this chapter, I'm already getting the vibe of why this is the government's worst nightmare. Because put this, if you really think about it, put this awakening against the best Navy officers, Akainu included, and they might actually have a bit of a struggle on their hands. This is the kind of fruit that's like I said, this is the kind of fruit whose defensive capabilities, once applied, is like the fruit is far more powerful in its awakened state than it ever was in the way that Luffy used it normally, and that is in itself a frightening possibility for the government when you look at what it's capable of. Um, Now, granted, if history is any indication, Luffy does need to finish this fight up quickly because I have to assume there's even more of a strict time limit on this awakening than what Gear 4 had, and it is definitely a calling card of Oda that once he introduces a new form for Luffy, Luffy does need that time to adjust before maintaining it for longer periods of time. And with the fruit having that will of its own, it's also hard to know how this will affect Luffy's like focus perception, like if he's going to if it's going to affect how he perceives this fight, if the joy boy aspect of the fruit is going to take him over and he just wants to have absolute fun fighting Kaido, or if he's going to be at least mindful enough to know that he needs to take Kaido out now. um Here's the thing too, as well though. If you look at Kaido's reactions to Luffy's new form, it's almost like he realizes the fight has turned on its head almost in favor of Luffy, but even more so that he's already started to understand that even knowing that he's understanding that he's already lost, he still wants to keep fighting. And honestly, it's through a lot of Kaido's dialogue in this chapter that I almost wonder if Oda's abandoned the idea of Kaido destroying Wano at this point, or even Onigashima becoming the capital, because it feels like what CP0 did real. It feels like what CP0 did to try and kill Luffy, and just in general, like seeing Luffy in this form, I felt like it almost reawakened that old part of Kaido within him, like basically the what the person he used to be in the past, or at least a part of that side of him. Because I'm honestly like Kaido at the end of this Kaido throughout this chapter, and especially at the end, he weirdly felt like a bit of a different person compared to the one we've gotten to know from like the beginning of Wano, and even when he was first introduced. Like we're dealing with like we're basically dealing like the Kaido we're dealing with now is not the same when we dealt with in it when he was first introduced. Um, with that being said, let's talk about what happened to Orochi, because we see why Hiyori distracted him for so long, which was to basically wait until the fire caught up and he would be burned alive. Which, yeah, just goes to show how committed Hiyori actually was to fulfilling the duty of the Kozuki. And honestly, it really does show just how it really like I think we've kind of underestimated how committed Hiyori has been to the cause of defeating Kaido and Orochi, and seeing what she did here, it shows how she basically buried her fear. She buried everything, every one of her emotions in order to do what needed to be done, which was kill Orochi. And honestly, this makes me kind of forgive Oda's penchant for bringing Orochi back after Kaido lopped his head off, because there is a certain poetic irony that Orochi thought he had destroyed the Kozuki through fire, and it's through Onigashima being set ablaze by Orochi's own hands that the Kozuki's decades-long wait for vengeance finally comes to pass. Of course, even more ironic about Orochi's death is it's ultimately the very woman he infatuated over that killed him, and even more so than that, the woman who kills him is the daughter of the woman who instilled the fear of the Kozuki into him. It's because of it's because of it's because of Toki that this all Orochi's like it's one of those things where Orochi's downfall started with Toki and it ends with Hiyori. And yeah, Hiyori herself definitely proved how committed she was to killing Orochi. Like what she did to him, that was so brutal, it almost to the point of it being too cruel. But when circling back to everything that Orochi's done to Wano, a death like that is almost fitting for someone like Orochi, especially considering how he also had Odin boiled alive. So it's fitting that he gets a very similar treatment by getting burned alive. But like yeah, I just like, oh boy, it's one of those things where you don't really expect what he already had done here, but damn, like she really made the ultimate sacrifice. Now, I'm hoping I'm hoping Oda isn't planning on burning her alive along with Orochi, but like I'm hoping someone's gonna come save her because I don't want her to die honestly, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, handle as Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.